Good afternoon everyone and welcome to the Sunset Safari. My name is Jamie Patterson. I am a new presenter with Wild Earth, so please bear with me guys. I'm still getting to know the roads, still getting to know the animals. And for our regular viewers, welcome back, and for any new viewers, remember this is a live safari, so what you are seeing on your screen is what we're seeing in real life, in real time on Djuma Game Reserve. So you guys, if you missed this morning's drive, you missed an action-packed drive. Brent with the Styx females, I believe, with their young cubs, and then the Nkuhuma pride that he just happened to stumble across. So our plan for this afternoon is we're actually going to head back to this carcass now. I'll drive with you guys and we can just have a look at the action. I did pick up on some fairly large, very fresh looking male lion tracks. So I have a suspicion that those males that were hanging out with the Styx females have come across to join the Nkuhuma pride with their very large, very filling meal. So let's go take a look and see. So guys, this is an interactive experience, so if you want to send through your questions or anything that you would like to know or discuss, feel free to do so at #SafariLive on Twitter or email questions@WildEarth.tv. It's a wonderful experience for me and I'm really excited about this whole new venture. This is actually only my second time ever in the Sabi Sands. My first time was here for my trial drive, so I'm still getting to know the area, really enjoying a different style and a different environment. This area is much more open than the area I was working in previously. Lots of new trees for me to learn, a couple new birds, very exciting. And yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that I can bring some fresh eyes and some new experiences to these drives, and I'm pretty excited because I plan on learning a lot while working with the other wonderful presenters, so hopefully you guys can come along on this journey with me, which is a very exciting prospect. Okay, so probably about 5 minutes out from this buffalo kill that the Nkuhumas have. It's their second one in about a week, which is very exciting news, and both times with Brent. I think he was very surprised when he stumbled across that. But I'm very curious to see now if I'm correct about those male tracks or if they're still going to be making their way up. I have Jean-Andre on camera with me. He's going to be helping me out as well. I'm very grateful. So guys, while I'm going to creep up and see what these lions are doing and have a look if they're feeding or if they're sleeping off an enormous meal, I'm going to link you across to Steph, who is waiting excitedly with a very unusual Impala. So enjoy, and when you're back with me, then I can show you what that pride is up to.
Well, hello everybody. This is a fantastic day for me. I'm back in the driving seat again after a little bit of time out, and myself and Andrew have come out on safari this afternoon, and immediately in an open clearing right next to the Mlwati we found this fantastic bachelor herd of Impala. And I know it's a bachelor herd because they've all got horns, and these guys are in an open area. Impala enjoy being in an open area. They are grouped together in this bachelor herd because the rut has just finished. And you'll also see this varying ages of Impala. We've got some old guys with big horns, and we've got some young guys with young horns, and then we've got a unicorn. And the interesting thing about that is he's just got one horn, the poor guy. Now, Impala, unlike the North American deer, their horns actually have a bony core, and they grow them for life, so they don't shed their horns every year. And the reason for this is because it doesn't get that cold here. You can imagine in North America when the snow starts falling and you have to pump blood to the end of an appendage like that, you can actually lose a lot of body heat that way. But Impala don't have that problem, and so what they can do is strengthen the horn with bone, feed it with blood, and it makes for a much more robust jousting tool. And that's exactly what you've seen happen to this guy. He's been jousting, and the pressure placed on his horn has actually snapped his horn clean off. And it looks sore, I must be honest. It bleeds for a while. It can rip a chunk of bone out, but generally speaking they survive the incident. And unfortunately they're not able to joust as effectively as what they were. So he just becomes a sparring partner for the younger rams. These rams are all now moving off of the open area. They've all come and had they use a latrine, a common toilet area, and they've all had their turn. I've been watching the bigger males here just sort of, my turn now, and my turn now, and my turn now, and marking with their glands that are all over their face. They've been marking every bush that we can see. They've been marking, and now they're on their way out into the fringes of this open area for the evening. They're not going to be spending time too far away from these open clearings. In actual fact, as soon as the moon comes up, they'll move back into these open clearings. And it's one of the strategies that make Impala so successful here. Impala themselves are the most numerous large mammal that the Kruger National Park has. They stop counting at about 250,000, so they just give you an estimate. There's more than 250,000 Impala in this area. And if you go back and you have a look at the history of the Kruger National Park, there never used to be so many Impala here. There never used to be the diversity that is here at the moment either, but depending on which scientist you speak to or which talk you go to, I've heard a varying degree of commentary on Impala, ranging from artificial watering holes allowing Impala numbers to increase, creating areas very suitable to them, to bush clearing practices, to which again create open clearings, which Impala seem to favor. But in this particular area, this is a natural clearing. There's nothing wrong with the clearing that we've been in, and that was a natural occurrence, seeing those ram Impala hanging around together this time of the year. Now, interestingly, you were watching Impala jousting with one another this morning. They never really stop jousting with one another. What happens is the intensity of that fight. Excuse me, I've got a fly that's busy buzzing around my head over here. So summer's on the way. These flies are starting to come back. My pet hate. And coming back to the Impala jousting question, the older males end up being sparring partners for the younger males. The younger males will learn the tricks of the trade, so that as they start maturing, they all of a sudden will reach a point where they're able to vie for a top spot, for a chance to get their genes into the gene pool. Now what I think I'm going to do is, let's go around the corner just a little bit. Let's go and see if I can teach you how to tell which is an immature, non-mating male, which is a prime male, and which is a jousting partner. Old grandpa, the guy, the wise old man that teaches all the lessons. So what we're going to do is just drive around the corner and stop when we can see them again, and I'll see if I can teach you how to judge that. Ooh, this fly, and so that I can drive away from where this fly is irritating me. Alright. Interestingly, Impala graze and browse, and you can see these Impala, the majority are browsing around the bottom of the seep line where the grass is still retaining sun nutrition. Although that Impala looks like he's got some other type of creeper coming out of his mouth. But coming back to our lesson, the trick is to look at the last inch or so of an Impala's horns. The last inch, this much. If I'm judging my inches, an inch or two. If an Impala's horns are pointing, the tips are pointing towards one another, like this, it's an immature male. If the horns are parallel, the tips, it's a prime male. And if the horns are facing away from one another, it's a male past prime, but carrying all the wisdom of all his years in the bush. And all three are necessary for healthy Impala dynamics. The young males are very energetic, they have a lot of energy, they want to learn. And that's why Mother Nature has gifted them with horn tips that point towards one another. It's like a blunt knife, a training knife. The old males with their horns open are there so that their horns don't stab into their opponents. The horn tips are away from one another, and the young males will butt against these horns, and they can effectively help and wrestle and develop the young males. But the prime males, the males that have their horn tips parallel to one another, they need those horn tips to be able to slip past their opponents and create wounds that, well, are meant to deter rivals, but can inflict mortal wounds. So see if you can have a look at the Impala and tell for yourselves how many mature bulls are here, or rams are here, how many young rams are here, and how many immature rams are here. So for now, all I'm seeing are some older ones, but it's actually quite difficult from where we are now.
On the far left, Steph, I think that's it.
Far left, we've got Andrew seen a young one, absolutely. There we go. So you can see his horns are pointing towards one another. Then if you come slightly more right, the guy in the middle, his horn tips are almost parallel. He'll be ready next year. He's going to be a contestant next year. You see those horn tips? Even though he's got a big rack of horns, the horn tips are not quite parallel and not quite past parallel either. There we go. That's beautiful. He's going to be a contender next year for the title. And then we've got that guy, that unicorn at the back. His horn tip, you can clearly see that horn tip from this angle points outwards. Old guy. Unfortunately, he can't joust anymore, but that'll give you an idea of that. Wow. So we've got all three ranges in this bachelor herd. That's fantastic. Now myself and Andrew, what we've done while we've been talking about these Impala, we've also been listening. Scott found some leopard tracks in this area, and we're going to search for these leopards this afternoon for you. But while I'm searching for the leopards, I am sure that Jamie's got something to show you and give you an update on what she's been up to. So enjoy. See you a bit later.
Welcome back, everybody. So you've had a lesson on aging an Impala, and in the meantime I've come back to find these lions, and as you can see there are some very contented lions lying here. We've got one big belly just to the left of me, and one female still bravely carrying on, still trying to eat a little bit more of that carcass. I've counted 8 lions here, and since I'm new to the area and I'm not that familiar with the animals, perhaps you guys could let me know exactly how many animals lions there should be in this pride. I've got 8 at the moment. I'm going to do, in a little bit, I'm going to move around, just have a look at who we've got, because I'm sure that the big male was walking up the road towards this kill, and I just want to see if he's joined them. So, as you guys can see, lions, when they do kill something, are going to make a lot of effort to eat as much as they can, especially as quickly as they can. They have incredibly rapid digestive systems, so within maybe 2 days, these lions will have finished off with this kill. There will be not much left, and they'll be looking like normal lions again. It was only about a week ago that they killed a buffalo bull, not too far from here. Actually, we're basically on the same road, and it appears that they've decided this is a good spot to be for hunting buffalo. Right, this is an old, looks like a fairly old buffalo bull. I haven't had a good look at it yet, but I will do. You can see they've already managed to consume quite a bit of the carcass, but there's still a lot of meat left, and I'm sure that if those big Matimba males catch wind of it, they will come up and join this pride, and hopefully help keep the hyenas at bay so that the pride can eat their fill. So, just while we're enjoying this sighting, I thought I would tell you guys a little bit about myself and where I've come from. I was born and raised in Johannesburg in South Africa, so I grew up there, spent most of my life there, but traveling backwards and forwards through the bush in various places around South Africa. I've always, for as long as I can remember, had an incredible passion for wildlife and all of the things that you could learn from being in the bush. And I have very vivid memories of traveling out with my granddad through Kruger at a very, very young age and watching lions crossing the bridge next to our car. And this is something that I've always wanted to, or always knew that I wanted to dedicate my life to. After I left school, I went to not so much work as enjoy the experience of being in the Kalahari and just help out wherever I can in that area. And then I went to university in the United Kingdom of all places, and I had a 3-year flirtation with a law degree that I completed from Cambridge. Very, very fortunate to have had that experience, but as you can see, it was not a future that I was really looking to go into as a practicing lawyer. And then immediately after that I came back, did my guides training, and my work experience differs quite a bit from the other presenters here. I've actually never worked in a private lodge before. I was a research guide in my previous position, and we worked a lot with various research students doing things like research on lions, rhino research, elephant contraception research, all kinds of things along those lines. So hopefully I'm bringing something back and something different. Very big belly there. It's one of the little sub-adult females from what I can see. Resting nicely against that log. It's amazing to think that these sort of flat, lazy-looking cats could actually be up to chasing down and killing such an enormous animal like a buffalo. But they have, and even though they look pretty tired and pretty sleepy, these appearances can always be deceptive, and we can never forget that these guys can go from sleeping flat to up and about and running as fast as covering ground in about 20 meters per second if they need to. So incredibly live, powerful hunters. But then again, it's a different hunting strategy, and they're actually definitely not one of the highest, most successful hunters that we have out here. That would probably go to something like the wild dog or the hyena. And this is because these guys rely on stealth and then very short chases. especially because they have such an enormous body mass that they actually tend to overheat, especially the male lions. So they bring great power to their hunts, but they have to be successful fairly quickly, or else they're tired out and they need to rest and cool down before they can start another hunt. And I know that last week, when if you guys were watching, Brent stayed with this pride for a good couple of days, watching a couple of unsuccessful hunts before they finally managed to bring down that buffalo. It's very interesting to see the different strategies. A big pride like this will focus on the larger prey, just it makes sense. You've got more mouths to feed and you've also got more pride members to help you take something down. So you'll see that with prey selection, a large pride, especially with a couple of big males, or even Junior at this point, he's big enough now to really start contributing to the hunts, they will go for the larger prey species, whereas a smaller pride with maybe a couple of females and without the males, they'll start going for some of the smaller species. But now, I'm saying that as a blanket rule. Of course, there's no such things as rules out here. Lions are opportunists, so if they get an opportunity to hunt, most of the time they will take it. Even if it's just for an Impala, which 2 lions can finish off very quickly, they will still take that opportunity. You can have a look. If we have a look over there, so that female's got her head right inside underneath the skin. Fairly gruesome to look at, but it is nature and she is hungry. She's feeding herself up nice and full. Oh, appears to be slightly stuck. She's just getting into that really good meat on the inside, the muscles on the inside of the thigh and so on. So generally they won't eat the intestines or the stomach. Those they will pull out before they start to feed. But they will go for some of the other organs, highly nutritious kidneys, liver. Organs like that carry a lot of protein and all of the things that they need to keep them going in terms of their demanding lifestyle. And she looks like she wants to climb right inside there. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you all for your warm words of welcome over Twitter, and especially to Julie and Sarah. Thanks guys and welcome. I hope that I can bring something fresh and new to the live safaris and hopefully keep you guys entertained and learn stuff along the way, even from you guys. So I'm sure that a lot of you know far more than I do about some of these animals. You have been watching Wild Earth for quite a while, so if you have any updates or any information for me about this pride, please feel free to send it to me. I'm going to do my best to learn, and I'm very excited about doing that. There's nothing like learning about a whole new group of animals and watching their dynamics. I know that there's been a lot of shuffling from what I've heard in terms of the lion dynamics in this area. The Birmingham boys pushing south into and around this area. It's going to create some interesting scenarios in the months to come, and I'm very, very excited to be here to see them. And she has emerged. So, big thank you to Sarah and Dennis. They have given me a little bit of information about the Nkuhuma pride. So, 8 is indeed the correct number for this pride. It seems as though there's 5 adult females, 2 sub-adults, and then the 3-year-old male, Junior, who's starting. Oh, we've got a lioness coming around here. She's going to come through. Thinking about eating a little bit more, just seeing what else she can cram in. Anyway, thank you Sarah and Dennis for that update, and apparently my trial drive here, which was about 4.5 weeks ago, was also Dennis's first safari, and he says welcome back, so thank you very much. I'm very, very happy to be back, And we've got a lovely greeting ceremony here between the two adult females. So these two will almost definitely be either sisters or at the very least cousins, but all of the females in prides are closely related. So I'm going to swap out. So she's decided that she's had enough of being inside the abdominal cavity of this buffalo, and she's probably going to go and find some shade with the others there. It's always interesting to watch the greeting ceremonies and the behavior between pride members. A social system like the ones that lions have is actually one of the most highly developed and specialized ways of survival, essentially. And these guys are responsible for each other, and they need each other in order to survive. So you can always see and judge quite a lot in terms of pride dynamics, or in the case of spotted hyena, clan dynamics, just by watching the way that the various lions or the various animals greet each other. And you'll find that the males in lions often tend to show a lot of affection towards each other, even more so than potentially between a male and female interaction. So interesting to see and interesting to read into that kind of behavior. There's some flat cats on the left. And if we have a look there at those fat bellies, as John Boy says, it does indeed look like they have swallowed beach balls. I remember very vividly working with a undergrad French vet student, and we were doing lion research, and we found a pride on a kill, and they had some fairly young cubs. They were around 6 months old, just starting to gorge themselves, and she looked at me and went, "That cub is just a belly with legs." And that is a lot what these lions are looking like. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is just shift around, maybe change positions, and see what other views we can get. I'd like to just have a look and see exactly how much meat is left on that buffalo. Always interesting to see. We know that the kill was made early this morning, so I'm keen to see how much they fed and even compare it to the feeding rate that they had from last week, because it's interesting to see compare their hunger levels and how fast they will actually move through eating and devouring a kill. So let's just see if we can change position slightly. Okay, my original approach was going to go forwards, but I think that she's sort of stymied that particular approach, so we'll go around her. Big girl, just gonna sneak around you. So there we can see as we can see, there's a great deal of meat still left on this carcass. I think that these lions are going to be here for a long time to come, probably the next 2 days. just gorging themselves, possibly moving up to Buffelshoek Dam, which isn't too far away. It's just maybe a couple of 100 meters to our north. So I'm sure that they are going to be sticking around for now. So Julie would like to know she would like to inform me that there is a lioness with very amber eyes, and that she is regularly the initiator of hunts. Well, welcome Julie, and thank you. I haven't yet managed to see her. I'm still getting to know these lions. I'm not sure if this is her here or not. Maybe if she could oblige us and look around, but I don't think so. But we'll have a look and see. I'll keep my eyes peeled, and thank you for that. It's always interesting in pride dynamics. There are the adult females will, whoever's in leading or initiating the hunt, it will be one of two or three of the older females who generally initiate. But what I have also noticed recently with a pride that I followed for about 12 weeks last year sometime, and around the same season, there was a female who was just coming past the sub-adult stage, so really entering her prime in terms of adult life, and she was often the one that initiated the hunts, which is interesting because usually in books it's the standard older females that will get the hunts going. But this particular young female, I think she was about 2.5 coming on 3, she would be the one, even at sort of 12 o'clock in the middle of the day when it was at its hottest, she would still be the one to set off. And I think she was just practicing and honing her skills, and the pride obviously follows along by natural instinct and by the communication. It's very, very coordinated, the way that these lionesses hunt, and I'm sure that those of you who saw that buffalo hunt that Brent managed to get from beginning to end, you will have seen how incredible it can be, considering that these animals, obviously they can't talk to each other, but they do talk to each other in their own way. They've got these incredible black markings on their backs of their ears, which I'm sure help a great deal in terms of telling which pride member what you're doing and where to go. And they coordinate, and they seem to just know instinctively where they should be, or where one should be and where the other one's going to go, and which female is going to chase the animals towards the others. Fascinating to see, and sometimes I do wish I could spend a day in the life of these animals and just understand a little bit better how they work. And we're very fortunate to be able to observe this kind of behavior, and I'm grateful every day for the opportunities that I have. See, both females who've come into feed are focusing on the back end of the carcass, trying to get into those really muscular bits where there's a lot of protein and a lot of nutrients that they need. She's also head first in there. She's tucked right in there. It's also always fascinating to me how incredible these animal immune systems must be. I mean, if we were to do that, I'm sure that we would maybe have some problems with infection. This carcass is fresh, so it would probably still be okay. But either way, we know that these lions will be here for the next 2 days and eating the slowly rotting carcass, and it's fascinating to me that animals are so much more resilient than we tend to be. So while she's taking a bit of a break with her head out, I think it's time that we find out what Steph is up to. I believe he has been tracking leopard, and he's seeing all kinds of interesting things out in the bush. So I'm going to stick with these lions for a bit, see what they're doing. I'll pass you on to Steph for now, and I will see you a little bit later.
Well, look what we found while you've been watching a lioness busy trying to climb inside of a buffalo, or wear a buffalo suit as far as I understand. And we found some hooded vultures. Now, myself and Andrew have come into the area where where Scott had some leopard tracks this morning where he startled a battalion tree, and we've immediately found two hooded vultures sitting in a tree, and we've got a white-backed vulture busy surfing in. It doesn't necessarily mean there's a kill here, I'll be honest. The white-backed vultures quite often follow hooded vultures around. They are able to fly a bit lower, the hooded vulture I'm referring to, because they're a bit smaller, so they need less air currents to fly around on. And what they'll do is, hooded vultures sitting in a tree this time of the day is a signpost to the rest of the vultures. Here you can see him swooping over to come and investigate. Now, what would be interesting is if that white-backed vulture actually lands. Now, we don't know what's here. We've got a squirrel. Ah, look at that. Well, the plot thickens. Now, from where I am, all I've had is an old windblown track from this morning. We've seen precisely 3 tracks. I saw 2 tracks going in one direction toward water and 1 track coming away from water in the other direction. The rest of the tracks were driven over. But what we've got here is a clear indication that something is around here. Now, tough to say exactly what's going on. There's quite thick bush around here. Generally speaking, leopard will try and conceal their kills, but it's obviously not escaped the notice of these vultures. And I'm hoping that they could tell us a bit more. I'm still not convinced that there's something here. We've got a couple of good signs. We've got a squirrel making an alarm call behind us. We've got 2 hooded vultures in a tree. They've called down a white-backed vulture. The white-backed vultures thought that it was a good enough reason to come and land in the tree close by. And now my brain's ticking over to try and see what's going on. What are we going to do? What are we going to see? Now, obviously, in thick bush like this, the best way, not the most obvious, the best way for me to have a look at what's going on would be to climb off and walk around inside here. But I think I'm going to give it a bit of time before I do that. In thick bush like this, leopard senses are far superior to mine, and I really stand the chance of chasing whatever's on whatever here away. So what I'm going to try and do is wait a little bit longer to see if the birds give us an indication. If the birds come from where they're sitting now down, then we'll have a better indication of where to start looking before I start crashing through in my vehicle. What I don't want to go and do is just aimlessly drive through the bush here, crashing over trees in this thick area. I enjoy these trees, and I enjoy thickets of trees especially, and I'm not going to just go and crash through them all. But what I can tell you is that we've got a better than 50% chance of there being something here. I can't tell you though whether there's anything on the kill. This time of year, animals are starting to die of disease and exposure and hunger. It could be anything. So right now I'm not too sure what's here. Don't forget that you are welcome to send through any questions that you have to me via Twitter at the hashtag Safari Live, or you can email them through to me at questions@wildearth.tv. And we'll try our best to try and answer as many questions as we can. Obviously, answering them all would be very, very difficult. And while we wait for the vultures to tell us a little bit more, or indeed for any other animal to tell us a little bit more, you're welcome to ask me any questions that you have. Now, vultures are niche specific, and by that I mean that every vulture has a very specific task in cleaning up detritus that's lying around the bush. And what you're looking at here, the hooded vultures are perfect at picking up feces, so For those of you who are watching the dissemination of the buffalo carcass from last week, and will no doubt see happen to the buffalo carcass that we have right now, you'll notice that the accumulation of biological matter around the carcass quickly ramps up. And what hooded vultures do is, while the lions are still on the carcass, they will come down and they'll feed on the feces. They're able to extract the nutrients that the lions do not digest from it, and in that way reduce the bad bacteria that is in the ecosystem. Vultures have incredibly strong digestive juices and can actually kill the bacteria, the bad bacteria inside feces. And when the lions then move off and the carcass is left, the hooded vultures finish off the last little bit of meat on scraps. They've got incredibly long, pokey beaks, as you can see there, sharp hook on the end, and they are able to get between bones. They're able to pick off the little bits and scraps and pieces of meat that larger vultures and hyenas and jackals can't get to. And they really make sure that they glean the carcasses clean. And that's what they do. They are first on the scene and quite often last on the scene, and they help clean up bacteria from feces and other biological matter around. Now, when an animal dies and it's not due to a predator, so like you have with Jamie, where you've got lions lying around, hooded vultures are not able to open up carcasses. So they have to wait for the bigger vultures, like that white-backed vulture that you've got in the distance. As you will no doubt notice, the white-backed vulture is a much more robust bird. It's bigger, it has a much more robust beak and a much stronger neck and head, and they are even undersized compared to the lappet-faced vulture, who will come in and open a carcass. The white-backed vultures are often very quick on the scene. They are the most numerous vultures around kills quite often over here, and they have a very special adaptation. Their tongue and their bill is adapted to picking up very slippery and slimy innards. So if you can imagine trying to pick up a piece of meat with two wooden spoons, that'll give you an idea of, or two plastic spoons, that'll give you an idea of what it's like trying to eat for a vulture. And so anything slippery or ropey, you can imagine, would be very difficult for them to pick up. Now, they have very specially adapted tongues, grooved tongues, or serrated margined tongues, in actual fact, that they can almost fold into a tube, and they create a little bit of a suction, and that increased surface area allows them to pick up the intestines, and they then swallow the intestines, which is an important thing. It might sound a bit macabre and a bit gross, but in actual fact, the quicker vultures get intestines and the innards of an animal into them, the less chance there is of bacteria and bad diseases and viruses from entering the environment, which would be catastrophic. And they really, really play such an important role at reducing disease and reducing bad bacteria in the ecosystem. They really, really are important, you know. Now, vultures So Kathleen has just asked me a fantastic question. You know, are these vultures aware of the lion kill, and how far are we away? Would they just be coming here by chance? And I absolutely think that these vultures are fully aware of that lion kill being there. But with attending cats, they stand less of a chance of eating right now. Because they need to eat right now, they've come in search of easier prey. They'll leave that. They will come and check on that carcass tomorrow, I'm sure. But as the crow flies, we are probably about 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers from Jamie at the moment. And I think that these vultures absolutely know that they're there. So thank you very much for your question there, Kathleen. So vultures, as it starts cooling down, vultures rely on thermals to fly. They're very efficient flyers on thermals. They're big, robust birds. They need to be big birds to open up carcasses. It wouldn't help if they were as big as sunbirds. They wouldn't get anything done. But because big birds require large amounts of energy to flap, vultures have evolved the ability to soar on thermals. And now in the cooler months of the year, as the sun starts to set, these thermals lose their power, and the vultures actually lose their ability to fly far distances. And before these thermals actually stop completely, vultures quite often in the late afternoon start to move towards trees where they can roost for the night. They don't always return to their nests. And these two particular vulture species, the hooded vulture and the whiteback vulture we're having a look at the moment, nest in the bush. They don't nest on cliff faces like the griffon vulture does. And these trees that we're having a look at could just be a very convenient roosting place. However, that being said, with the leopard tracks in the area, with the two different species of vulture being here, with the squirrel that's busy calling, I'm almost certain that there's something here. And I'm hoping that it's a spotted cat. Now, the vultures haven't descended, as I was hoping, but that in itself isn't too much of a deterrent for me. If there's a leopard lying on a kill still, or a hyena lying on a kill, or a single lion lying on a kill here, in thick bush like this, the vultures won't descend just yet. They run the risk of actually being attacked in retaliation. And they'll try their absolute best not to be attacked. So it all bodes well for us. It means that that something may still be lying on the kill. So Georgianne in Illinois, hi Georgianne, you've asked a fantastic question. You know, with me talking about hooded vultures that that eat feces, you've asked a question relating to our buffalo kill with Jamie, saying would hooded vultures eat the stomach contents of the buffalo in an effort to reduce bacteria? And the answer to that question is no, Georgianne. For the simple reason is that vultures are carnivores, or detritivores is the actual word for them, and they will gain no nutrients from grass, which is what the buffalo eats, but they stand the chance of gaining a little bit of nutrients from the meat which the lions eat. So they won't eat the stomach contents of the buffalo, they will eat the feces of the lion. It doesn't sound like a good trade-off, but that was a very good question. Really well done. Now we've got something interesting. We've got more vultures flying in here, more whiteback vultures. Once again, not telling me too much. I'm not seeing any vultures on the floor, but what they are starting to do is tell me whereabouts we can start looking. Now that's a whiteback vulture, a bushmaster. He's coming in for the land, he or she. Big heavy birds, difficult for them to land, and whoa, instead of a nice graceful landing, smashes into the tree and almost knocks them all out. Now there are lots of trees around where we're sitting at the moment, myself and Andrew, where they could have landed, but they've chosen to land in the dead trees off to our right hand side. And this is giving me a triangulation, a start of a triangulation of where I should start looking. And we just need one more tree. So, hi Elise, you've asked a question. Do vultures rely more on sight or smell? And it's a relatively easy question to answer. They rely more on sight, even though, and this is a a curveball. I have heard of vultures responding to kills by smell. So I would say definitely. Actually, let me retract my answer. It's not a very easy answer to give you, Georgia. And the easy answer would be, they only rely on sight because they fly so high in the air. How could they possibly smell anything? Which is what 99% of the books will tell you. But I have read reference material where, in particular, the Ruppel's vulture has been attracted to kills by smell. And further than that, I haven't heard or read anything that tells me how sensitive vulture smells are. I've read a lot about how vultures avoid freezing to death at the altitudes that they fly, and how their eyes are so perfectly adapted to seeing the way that they do, binocular vision and almost a magnifying glass effect in their corneas, but nothing about their smell. So Wendy in Kentucky. Hi Wendy. You've asked me a question, Wendy, that I can't really answer right now. What's the difference between New World vultures and Old World vultures? And that's a very good question. I don't actually know. I would love to hear from any of you that could tell us about what the difference is between New World and Old World vultures. I don't even know if I have a reference book, and I have a lot of reference books in the car here with me that could help me there. But good question. I would love to know the answer to that question. Peter in Switzerland is a new viewer as far as I know. Welcome Peter, welcome to the show. I'm very glad to be able to answer your question on what do vultures eat if there's not much food around. Vultures fly incredible distances, Peter. There was always food around somewhere. Some vultures in the Kruger National Park have been known to fly all the way to the Magaliesberg mountain roosting places some 600 or 700 kilometers away in a one-day round trip, and something will die in those areas that they are covering. So although a vulture might not eat every day, that's unfeasible for most animals in Africa. There's definitely enough animals on the hoof dying every day to keep them and their numbers intact. Now, what might not be immediately apparent is we've actually got a cone of vultures developing above this tree. I can see 4 vultures flying around, and I've just heard another tree squirrel that is busy calling. I actually think we need to start getting moving here and seeing if we can't find something before we lose the light. So I think while we are looking for whatever's attracted these vultures, we are going to go back to Jamie, and you can enjoy what's happening with the lion kill. So enjoy that, and we'll see you in a bit.
So guys, if you take a nice look into that dead tree just in the background, you'll see that we're also sitting with vultures and just having a bit of a chat about how they operate. I know that you guys have been talking at length with Steph about vultures and their role in the ecosystem. As you can see, the carcass has indeed been spotted, and it is in a very, very open area, so this does not surprise me at all that the vultures know that this is here. However, unfortunately for them, they will not be able to get anywhere near this carcass for now, with feeding angry lions on it. They will not stand a chance. And to actually go in and try and steal some food for now might be a little bit risky. Alright, the lions will very vigorously defend a kill from any vulture, and they could actually kill them in the process. So the vultures in the area are starting to come through. The ones that you saw with Steph are probably congregating because of this kill. They will have seen it, but they also are savvy and they know that it's not going to be time to come down and try their luck just yet. And very often you'll see them sitting in the dead trees, and that's obviously for convenience. They're big lions, they're big birds, so it takes them some time to jump off and go through the trees. Now if we have a look here, I'm just going to move myself out of the way. We've still got the females eating. So it's a bit of a pity. This one lioness was giving us quite a show while you were chatting to Stefan. She was right inside the carcass. I could actually see her head through the hole. So very impressive feeding style that she's got going. Just to chat about vultures and their role in the ecosystem a little bit more. Obviously the dynamic between those kind of scavengers is very, very important. They play a very important role in actually disposing of what's left of the carcass once the lions have finished, without leaving it to rot and collect bacteria. So they're basically the cleaners upper of this environment. And it's interesting to see the dynamic. There has, in recent years, there has been quite a drop in vulture populations. And one of the theories that was put forward to me, which was something I'd never ever considered, is that hyena populations, have been reduced over the years. And hyenas, when they eat, they have that incredible jaw strength that they can actually crunch bone. And when they do that, they leave little bone fragments that the feeding vultures will actually come, especially females. And they go and they eat those little bone fragments because their beaks are not strong enough to really crack open the bones. And they snack on those to enrich their calcium, so that when the females come to lay eggs, they've got enough calcium for nice solid eggs. So the theory that was put forward to me was that actually a decrease in hyena numbers can actually lead to a drop in vulture numbers, just because they're not getting that calcium that they need. It's an interesting idea, and of course there's always several factors in play. But it is one that it is a different way of approaching a question, and very, very interesting. And there's lots and lots of very valuable conservation groups doing work with vultures, tagging them, tracking them, and they really are incredible birds, the way that they can fly hundreds and hundreds of kilometers, which has led to this belief that actually they can, by sort of local cultures and customs, that they can actually see into the future. Because people didn't understand that they just have the most incredible vision and how they found the carcasses. So it led to the belief that they were just predicting where they were going to be. So we've got that female nice and tucked in there, really having a good snack. Probably, I can't see exactly where her head is. Yeah, she's going for the very strong pelvic muscles, and probably will move up towards the muscles along the lower back, which are also very, very solid pieces of flesh there. Ah yes, she's got her teeth hooked around the hip bones, the pelvic joints, just getting all of the nice nutrients out of there. Okay, so what we have seen is that these lions are very happy to feed with each other. And now when lions first kill something, if they're very hungry, there's a lot of aggression at a lion kill. When they first start to feed, especially if they've made a kill and they're hungry, there's a lot of aggression. I've actually seen a fairly well-fed male take an entire impala kill away from some rather hungry females. It's every lion for themselves. Even with the young cubs, they have to fight and kick and claw their way in to get a meal. And they will give each other some severe batterings. So it's always interesting to see. At the moment, these guys are pretty well fed. There's no need for much aggression at the moment, but things always change in the drop of a hat. They are very instinctive animals, so if they are feeling a little bit threatened with their food, then they might start to react aggressively. But at the moment, we have a really nice, peaceful family scene. So now the question is, when we come back here this evening, later this evening, because I'm not going to stay with these guys the whole afternoon, the question is, will the hyenas have actually come and found this? And Gil from Rhode Island, welcome, thank you for your question, would like to know basically at which point hyenas would be able to steal this kill away from the lions, and sort of what the dynamics would have to be in that kind of scenario. So no lone hyena is going to even think about approaching a pride this big at the moment. A very large group of hyenas, we're talking maybe 8 hyenas or so, might be able and might think about coming to challenge them, but even so, I would, with a pride this size, with a young male, even though he is young, he has got a great deal of more strength on his side. So I do think that hyenas would definitely think twice about even coming in at this point, especially if I'm right and the Matimba males come and join this family scene. So for now, the hyenas are not going to come and try and take this kill away. Even with numbers around 8, they're not going to be able to chase a pride of lions that are this determined to defend their kill. There are other areas of Africa where you get much, much larger clan sizes, and they will challenge lone smaller prides with potentially with just females, and they will be able to chase them off kills, but this would probably not be the case at the moment. These lions will move off the kill when they're good and ready, and what you'll see now is if hyenas start to approach, the lions will all be very, very alert. As I said before, they look sleepy and docile, but it can change in a heartbeat. If they pick up on hyenas, they probably start to urinate, start to spread their scent around, just making sure that the hyenas know what's theirs and not to push their luck. I have seen circumstances where lionesses there was 2 lionesses at the time, they were chased off a zebra kill by hyenas, and a male was seen about 2 kilometers away at about half an hour before this all happened, and he obviously heard the vocalizations of the hyenas, of the lionesses, and he ran basically from where he was to where the lionesses were, moved very, very quickly to come and help defend, which explains why, you know, maybe yes, they do tend to take the lion's share of the meal. The males, they will fight off the females and eat their share first, or if with a big carcass they might share it, but the females need them around, or it's useful having them around for protection from things like hyenas, or potentially, obviously, other male lions who are coming in looking for new territories, and those male lions pose an incredible threat to young cubs. I'm just going to shift out of the way there. Maybe we can have a look at this lioness who's giving us quite the view, peeking through that hole there in the armpit. She's really getting tucked into that meal. That's quite an image. Lion's nose coming out. You can see she's just struggling for purchase at this carcass. She wants to get right in there, make sure that there's none of the really nice organs left. How cool is that? Amazing. Very interesting to see her nose poking out there. quite happily getting tucked in and involved. Unfortunately, it is a really nice and warm day, and what we are seeing now with the position of this carcass and everything and the lions here is that it has brought a myriad of flies, and they've decided that sitting on us is just as nice as sitting on the lions and the dead buffalo. So you have to excuse me if I'm swatting them away. I haven't built up much of a tolerance. Not a huge fan of flies on my face, but they are around and they are causing some distress. So you guys will notice that even when she's nice and tucked in there, she's still coming out looking a lot cleaner than they were this morning. And Sarah from New York would like to know how that whole thing happened. You know, they were very, very bloody this morning, fresh kill, and now they're looking much, much cleaner. So the answer, Sarah, is that they would actually have groomed themselves. Most of the bloody areas of the carcass have been eaten or removed, and obviously now the blood is congealed with time and over the past few hours, so it's fairly solid at the moment, so there's not any fresh liquid blood to get all over them. And then what they will do is, after a nice big meal, they will groom themselves. They lick their paws, use them to clean their face, much in the way that you probably, if you have pet cats or if you've seen somebody's cat before, they clean themselves in a very, very similar way. And they will also allo groom, so they will clean each other as a way of sort of social bonding, just reaffirming, enforcing those bonds that are basically essential for their survival in life. So they will clean each other and they will clean themselves of all of the mess. And the reason that she is not coming out at the moment is the blood is now solidified and congealed. And she really is getting tucked in there. A lion's tongue is actually really, really fascinating. I've been fortunate enough to deal with a couple of lion dartings and transportations, and I've had an opportunity to feel the tongue of a lion that was under anesthetic, and they have the most incredible spines on them. You know, like a domestic house cat does, that very rough tongue, but I quite seriously mean they are almost spiny. And what they'll do is they'll use those incredible spines on their tongue to actually get rid of all of the hair. They start licking their fresh kills, get rid of the hair that's indigestible to them, and then break through the skin. And they can actually even use that tongue to get those last morsels of meat off the bone and use it to pull it off like that. So fascinating the way that their anatomy has developed in order to perfect the way that they get the most out of their meal. Very similar thing with leopard tongues as well. So a lot of your cats, it's a standard adaptation to their feeding methods. So I have a wonderful question from 7-year-old Helene, who is Bren's granddaughter. Welcome to the show, welcome to the Sunset Safari. It's great to have you here. Now Helene would like to know if lions will eat bones. The answer to that is yes, they will. They are powerful enough to crack some of the smaller bones, especially if they're digging into a meal straight away. They will swallow some of the smaller bones, and you will find those fragments in their scat. So in that feces, you will often find chunks of bone in lion scat. Which you will also find is that if they eat very young animals where the bones are still soft, they will also eat and chew those, especially with very newborn animals. They don't have the same crushing ability that hyenas do. So hyenas can actually really get into the solid pieces of bone, crack them open. They've got very powerful jaws and shoulders for muscle attachments. So they can really crunch and get into those bones, and their stomach acid is so strong that you won't find the same chunks of bone that you would find in lion scat. You will find in hyena scat it's very smooth. That stomach acid has completely dissolved away all the remnants of bone chunks, leaving it just sort of white in color as it grows older because of all of the calcium. A very interesting question, and the answer is yes, they do eat bones, but to a limited degree. So Francie in Oregon would like to know what is going to happen to that incredibly thick skin and hide of the buffalo that this lioness is struggling to get around. Well, the answer to that is I've actually seen hides last for a very, very long time out in the bush. They sort of dry up in the sun, often become very leathery and tough. There are certain things that will eat it. Hyenas will chew on it to an extent, and they will try and eat some of it. And but then again you get your bacterias and your funguses that will settle in and start to break it down very slowly. But it is interesting because it is probably one of the pieces of the kill that has the potential to last the longest out here in the bush. But every part of this buffalo carcass will be utilized in some way as part of the nutrient cycle, feeding nutrients back into the soil, providing other animals with energy and food, and all kinds of potential places for things like horn moth larvae. So every part, nothing goes to waste out here. Okay guys, I'm just gonna slightly shuffle the car around just so that we can get a different view of these guys, and then I want to hear from you guys if you would like to stay with these lions, or if you would actually prefer to move on and see what else we can find. I will be coming back here later. I think it's going to be a very exciting scene, so just let me know. You can send your answers through on #SafariLive or email us at questions@wildearth.tv. Oh, sorry, girl. I did have a little bit of a look around while you guys were with Steph, and I did find Junior. He's looking very happy with himself and very full and very contented. So we're just going to head across there, see if we can get a view. He's giving us a bit of a show, showing off that enormous belly. It's just here to my right. Let me see if I can get a good picture for you guys. Okay, so there we have a very contented, very fat Junior, looking happy and relaxed. And it's a very interesting thing that lions can spend up to 20 hours a day prone, either fast asleep or catnapping, or just relaxing in the heat. And now Joyce from New Hampshire would like to know, how is it possible that lions can actually maintain that muscle tone in their fitness if all they do, or all they seem to do, is spend a great deal of time lying down and sleeping and being what looks to be lazy? That's a very interesting question, and one that I asked somebody years ago to do. Actually, was actually in a different situation. It was to do with captive cheetah. They weren't captive, they'd been rescued off farms, but they were placed in a boma temporarily just to get them used to the new environment so that they didn't go back to the farms that they'd come from. And I was asked that extended period of time, would this cheetah not lose its fitness and actually struggle to hunt once it was released? And apparently, from what I've learned, I'll have to read up more into it, but they have a very, very different muscle tone. And you'll be able to see, I mean, I've been hands-on with all of the big cats, and they do actually have very soft muscles. It's not what you would expect. You sort of expect the rock-hard, toned animal of the bush, but when relaxed, their muscles are very, very soft, and it is just a different muscle style. They don't lose fitness in the same way that we do, and again, with that very, very, very strong, fast metabolism, they can provide bursts of energy when they need it, but again, not sustained. So they're not fit animals, they're not long-distance runners or anything like that. It's short and very vigorous explosions of energy, and then they need to stop and slow down and calm down. But yeah, those fat bellies will be gone in about 2 or so days. But very, very interesting question, and one that I have asked before, and that I believe is the answer. They are just structured differently. Okay guys, will you excuse me for 1 second? I just need to communicate with the other game drives, because there are other people that would like to come and see, so I'm just going to let them know that they're more than welcome to come and join us. Yeah, stations, I'm on lock with these Impala. Still Lalapanzi here, same position. I'm the only station here at the moment. Yeah, that's affirmative. I believe there was one other station responding, but still far out. Okay, copy that. You're more than welcome. Okay, copy. Alright, always very important to maintain some friendly relations with the neighbors. Okay, we all work towards the same goals. We all want to be able to work together and plan our routes and share a sighting so that as many people as possible get to come and experience, which is where you guys are actually so lucky in that you can have this experience. And I think it is the most incredible concept that you could actually come with us on a live safari and see what we're seeing, and I love sharing that. It's one of my favorite things about the bush. The best time to actually be in the bush is when you can share its incredible wonders and miracles with other people. Okay, so guys, I think I'm actually going to shift my way out of here. We've got several vehicles coming now, but I promise you we'll be back, and we will be back with these guys when the sun is starting to go down, a little bit cooler, and we can see if we get any interesting activity. Okay guys, these lions are not going anywhere. Guys, thank you very much for your feedback. I know that many of you have suggested that we leave, which is exactly what we're doing. And let's go and have a look at Buffelshoek Dam, see if anything's crept down. I've heard some very interesting reports about Karula mating with another male. I'm still getting to know the various animals, but interesting that she appears to be mating with somebody. I'll let you know. I promise you I'll keep you updated, let you know as soon as I know. Although I'm sure some of you have already heard, you might know even more than I do. Okay, so as we travel down this road, I just want to let you guys know that we are going to cross across to Steph while I take my time to get to Buffelshoek Dam and figure out my way around for a start. So enjoy your time with Steph and have a look at the interesting feathered friend that he has.
Well, welcome back to me, and what's seems to be a dark chanting goshawk in a tree far away from where we're sitting at the moment. It was quite interesting, I must be honest with you. Myself and Andrew are busy following up on leopard tracks, and we've had vultures, as you saw a bit earlier with us, and we've had squirrels giving alarm calls, and I got into that thick bush. I was on foot. We couldn't find anything in the vehicle, so I got off and I was on foot, poking my nose under every bush, and all of a sudden Franklin behind me went crazy, and I thought, done, we've got the leopard, and ran back to the car and climbed into the driver's seat, and we tracked down the noise of these Franklin, the alarm calls of these Franklin, fully expecting a leopard to jump out of the tree, and lo and behold, what we found in the tree is a dark chanting goshawk that was trying to hunt some Franklin over here. So unfortunately no leopard, but we're still hot on the trail of the tracks that Scott left you with this morning, and I've just got a feeling that these cats are right here or somewhere in this area. Just something's telling me there's too much stuff going on in this little block for there not to be a large spotted predator here. And although I haven't seen any tracks in a long time, the last tracks I did have were right underneath where those vultures were sitting, literally underneath the same tree. I followed those tracks for a while. Unfortunately, I'm not a bushman, and it got quite hard next to that drainage line, and I lost the tracks. But I have a general direction of the tracks, and the nice thing with leopard tracks is that they tend to walk in a very specific linear fashion, and we've got tracks coming in and going out and going back in again. And I think that there's something happening around that drainage line. So we're going to be going back to that drainage line. I'm going to be driving ultra slowly up and down there and see if we can pick anything up in daylight. And then barring that, we're going to try with the spotlight when the sun goes down. But my gut feel tells me that there's something there. We've had squirrels giving alarm calls, we've had vultures sitting in the trees, we've had, well, what turned out to be a dark chanting goshawk hunting in the same area. And then we've got that little niggle in the pit of my belly that tells me that we've got something here. So we're going to go back down the road where we came from, not very far from where we are now. We're only about 100 meters, just over 100 yards. I just heard the go-away birds busy shouting, but a quick glance at the tree where the dark chanting goshawk came from. The chanting goshawk is gone, and in all likelihood is what spooked the grey lories or the grey go-away birds. They're incredibly vigilant birds, and they've quietened down now again. Bush is starting to settle back into that rhythm that I'm so used to. I don't hear any more alarm calls. I'll just take out this quickly. It's always a good thing to listen. I do most of my tracking by ears. Other people use their eyes. I'm not good enough with that. But I think let's go back down. Let's comb every inch of that drainage line that we've got, and let's see what we can find. Now leopard, a lot of people think that leopard either hang around in rocks, live entirely arboreal lives in trees, or just live in drainage lines in thickets, but they're actually one of the most adaptable cats in the whole of Africa. And I've seen leopard in almost all environments. I even heard of a frozen leopard carcass found on the slopes of Kilimanjaro, the tallest freestanding mountain in the world, a few years ago. So incredibly adaptable cats, found from just outside Cape Town in the southern point of Africa all the way to the eastern side of China, believe it or not, and in all temperate environments. They're absent from deep jungle, and I have seen them in the Kalahari. So Kalahari is definitely a true desert, and they definitely occur in the Kalahari. But they're absent from sand dunes, you know, the Namib Desert. They're absent from there. But other than that, they're probably one of the cats that have the most adaptable nature. Now I've got another alarm call. I'm just going to take out my earpiece and listen. Off to our left, we've got some pretty open bush, as you can see. Doesn't look like much is there, but I'm catching the, as you can hear, there's, or you might hear, there's just something that's not comfortable here. We've got a hornbill in the tree there. Now the hornbill itself is not giving an alarm call, but we've got another bird giving an alarm call. I'm just trying to find out where it is, so that I can tell you what bird it is. At the moment it sounds like a chagra. It's the ever-present fork-tailed drongo. And then we've also got a southern black tit. So unfortunately a bit far away, the trees are a bit far away for me to actually show you what birds they are here, but nonetheless there are definitely some birds giving an alarm call. I've definitely got an itch about this area. Something is here that's not right. And we're going to be sticking around to see what is the story here. Still have the alarm call off to my left hand side. Sounds like a roller in actual fact. So what we're going to try and do is increase our audio a little bit so that you can hear what I'm hearing, hopefully. Now what I'm listening to is a harsh call far away. There was one there. There's another one there. There was another one there. That's an alarm call. It's not a typical call. Still don't quite know what bird that is. We've got a rattling testicular. We've got go-away birds in the far distance. And the noise is a hornbill. Southern yellow-billed hornbill. Some arrowmark babblers. So we've still got that hornbill, we've got a drongo in the fray, we've got the arrowmark babblers, fork-tailed drongo, that's another fork-tailed drongo, arrowmark babblers. Isn't technology wonderful for you can actually hear this? Ah, there's the source. So we just found out what was causing the commotion, and it was that dark chanting goshawk again. So he literally flew up from where we were. He's made a big circuit around in the bush where we couldn't see, and he first gave that roller a bit of a fright, and then he was giving the hornbill a little bit of a go, and then the fork-tailed drongo joined the fray, and then the arrowmark babblers, and boom, out of the bush pops the dark chanting goshawk that we saw. And I'm so glad you got to listen to that with me. It was so interesting seeing or feeling the energy of the birds moving from our left-hand side all the way to our right-hand side. And as the birds started calling, bang, we saw the little predator bash out of the bushes there and fly away. Now, some very clever people, I'm told, have actually started to decipher this language that the birds are speaking. And I found it a fascinating thing. You know, as the years go by, I have interests that wax and wane. And at the moment, this bird language, this what is the bush telling us, is absolutely incredible. Just by sitting and listening and taking time to listen. Now, that call of that roller, I'm actually going to store that call in my memory banks. And I'm going to put it with the other calls that I was hearing, that high-pitched shriek of the fork-tailed drongo, that babble of the arrowmark babblers all together, and I'm going to keep that in my memory bank aligned to a dark chanting goshawk or to a little predator sipiter of the same size, and see if I can recreate that at a different time. And that'll allow me to build up a data bank or a knowledge base of what the bush is telling me. And I'm going to do similar things when I see birds reacting to leopard and to lion, and see if I can start decoding this language. And Meg, I'm so glad that you've enjoyed that with me. As I'm busy sitting over here, the birds that have flown away in fright of that little dark chanting goshawk have actually started to return to their purchases. We've got a crested barbet that's returned from the floor where he was hiding back onto the branch. I've seen the fork-tailed dry. He's just flown away. He's out there. He's come up on the other side, but not to worry. He's just gone back into the bush there, probably to carry on it this afternoon. But the interesting thing with this bird language is it's not only bird calls that is being deciphered, it's actually the behavior of these birds associated to the calls. So what we were seeing there is cresting and troughing, or in actual fact troughing and then cresting, because this predator was flying in the undergrowth. The birds went from sitting in the bush and calling to the ground and calling, waiting for the predator to go past, and then going back up to their perch with that specific call. The next time I hear that, even if I don't see what's causing it, I'll know. If I see birds going from the floor or from the bush down to the floor and giving a warning call like that, I mustn't look on the floor for a leopard. I must be looking into the air, and that will help me determine what's causing the commotion. So we're going to carry on going. I still have a feeling there's still a lot of energy. There's still a lot of energy in this air, in this valley. We've still got the leopard tracks to follow up on. We've still got those vultures that were sitting in the tree, and we've still got the squirrel that was busy calling a bit earlier. So it's not finished yet. Sorry, Tara, I lost you there completely. So, we've managed to get some answers to a question that was posed a little bit earlier from Joyce, Matthew and Jane. Thank you so much. I've actually just learned something incredible at the moment, and you've given us the answers for the old world versus new world vultures. And the answer is, and thank you very much for this, that through convergent evolution, old world vultures and new world vultures have arrived at the same point where they're looking after the environment and cleaning up after themselves. But new world vultures are vultures that have a sense of smell as keen as their sense of sight, whereas the old world vultures only rely on their sense of sight. Can you believe that? So thank you very much for that little bit of information. I constantly try and learn things and some things new, and thank you for helping me with that. Once again, I just have to marvel at the fact that we can help one another learn about the bush we're driving in, all the way from the Kruger National Park here in South Africa, Djuma Private Game Reserve, Djuma Narathuza. And I really have to say thank you for that. That's really nice. Now, off to my left hand side, we've got the squirrel that was giving us the alarm call just now. He's completely relaxed at the moment, or she is completely relaxed. I haven't quite decided just what yet. And that common tree squirrel is busy eating the seed pods of a bush willow. That particular seed pod is called the Samara. It's a four-winged pod that is dispersed by wind and water. And the little squirrel is busy collecting, have a look at that, collecting these Samaras, chewing them open with their incisors on the bottom jaw, extracting the seed, which is also like a. So you may have noticed that at a point there was a little jerk in the zooming that Andrew was busy doing. That's one of the features of this new camera, in that it can punch us forward, and it can sort of, we call it the super shot or the super zoom, and it reaches a point and then it jumps forward. So there was nothing wrong with the transmission, and now you must be right on that little squirrel. I mean, have a look at him powering through those Samaras. This time of year, squirrels will have, or will be tucking into their larders. He's definitely not saving any of these now. We might be storing them in his cheek pouches, which might account for why he's eating them so fast. I can't actually see if his cheek pouches are full. They don't look full. It looks like he's busy swallowing them. Should I say she? In actual fact, it's a female tree squirrel. Wowza. Have a look at how dexterous those hands are. That is incredible. So I knew it was a female because these particular types of mammals, their testicles are incredibly enlarged, almost out of proportion with their body, and clearly evident with binoculars or at the zoom that you've got now. I can't see any evidence of an enlarged scrotum, and therefore I've deduced that it's a Mrs. or Miss tree squirrel rather than a Mr. Definitely powering through these Samaras. Doesn't look like the cheek pouches, although keep an eye on those cheek pouches. Let's see if she's busy storing up those seeds, in which case she will make her way off to her larder and go and deposit them there. Now, humans have been using these Samaras from this particular bush willow and making tea from, not the seeds, from the coverings that she's so casually disregarding. And I am told that they are, or have, cancer prohibiting agents. I have drunk some of the Samara tea. It's a little bit bitter, nothing too bad. I haven't got cancer just yet, so preventative maintenance there couldn't hurt. Have a look at how dexterous she's moving through those branches. I mean, isn't it just wonderful? Now they've got 5 toed feet on their front feet, and although they don't have opposable thumbs, it's definitely 5 toes. They are incredibly dexterous. I mean, just have a look. She's selecting a branch, bending the branch to her, picking off the Samara with her claws, putting it in her mouth, turning it around, opening up the Samara with her bottom incisors, extracting the seed, discarding it, and doing it all again. I'm going to count the next time Hey, let's see, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000. Well, she's taking her time with this one. She's sitting at 15 seconds already. Girl, you're slowing down. That was a lot quicker. She's maybe battling with this one. Now, tree squirrels are part of the rodent family, which means that their lower incisors never stop growing. She has to use her bottom incisors, otherwise they will grow out of her mouth and make her look funny. So for their entire lives, they wear down their chisel-like incisors on their bottom jaws, keeping them nice and sharp. Let's count now. Let's see when she gets to the next cluster. Hey, 1,000. No, still not. Still just testing. Have a look at that. Put it in her mouth. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, 10,000. Once again, 10 seconds of reach. Just powering through that. Have a look at that. Turning it around and around and around, biting off those wings. Now extracting that seed. Eating it. So Linda has sent through an email, and hi Linda, you're asking why do squirrels like this and birds give alarm calls if they can be safely hidden away in trees? I mean, how is a leopard ever going to get that squirrel? The best answer that I can give you right now is the fact that because leopard prey on squirrels, they will and are predators of tree squirrels. They will take the opportunity to shout or to warn other animals of leopard being there. It's just one of these ingrained safety features that they have. They, in particular squirrels, really shout out about predators. Predator is there. So an alarm call from a squirrel sitting at the top of the tree on an exposed branch looking down, most definitely a predator on the floor. A squirrel diving out of a tree and getting into the thickest brush possible, or even hiding on the ground, looking up into the sky and giving an alarm call is definitely there from an aerial predator, a bird. Right now, quite safe, feeding on the samaras, keeping her eyes vigilant. I, in actual fact, have only ever seen once a squirrel getting eaten by a bird. So Jenny has commented quite rightly and well done on the observation there, Jenny. You've noticed that squirrels, when they climb down a tree, actually turn their feet backwards and hang from their nails. And this is exactly what these tree squirrels can do. They can twist their feet backwards and hang off of their sharp claws. To be honest, even sitting here where I am right now, I can't even imagine how they get that right without thinking that they have the ability to twist their ankle in some way